Today I'll be talking about the background of Impressionism, some influential artists included in the movement, and the style of Impressionism. Impressionism has an interesting background. In the mid-19th century, a group of artists put together an exhibition in France that introduced the Impressionism movement. Critics of the movement criticized the paintings for not being realistic enough. It was not widely accepted initially. Claude Monet's Impressionism Sunrise is what gave the name to the Impressionism movement. Louis Leroy called the painting an impression, or an unfinished painting. About Impressionism's background, I will talk about the styles and techniques of the art of the Impressionism era. Impressionism changed the idea of art entirely. Instead of being commissioned by higher-ups to do a realistic portrayal of a person or scene, Impressionist artists started painting realistic portrayals of scenes from their everyday life. Anyone could paint because all they had to do was paint their everyday life. Instead of painting being a tedious experience, paintings were done with rapid sketch types fashions. The art made people feel things instead of just a portrait of an event. Impressionist artists used brighter colors than academic painters and used lots of paints to depict everyday life. Now that you know how the Impressionist painters achieved such vivid paintings, I'll talk about some of the art behind the era. There were many important painters during the Impressionist era, but I'll be talking about Monet and Renoir. Even though paintings looked similar in the Impressionist era, artists still had their own styles. Renoir painted girls with loose brushstrokes and bigger cheeks and full figures, often painted women including his children's longtime nanny or his children. In the words of his child, Jean Renoir, we are all Renoir's children in his paintings because the people in his paintings looked so similar. As stated earlier, it is often stated that Monet's paintings gave the Impressionist era its name, so Monet obviously had a big influence on the Impressionist era. Monet's paintings were heavily influenced by light. He would paint the same scene multiple times during different times of day to show the contrast in light. During the later part of his life, Monet painted water lilies and other scenes from his home in northern France. He painted the water 50 times. His eyesight started to decline during the end of his life, as you can see in some of his paintings. The Haystack series. Here's water lilies. Here is his declining eyesight shown through the bridge outside his house in northern France. In conclusion, the Impressionist movement was a beautiful movement with many interesting and influential painters. It brought about different reasons and subjects to paint, painting something you could do for fun and the subject leisurely. It also brought incredible artists including Renoir and Monet.